Going to be doing books and authors, an oldie but goodie. Estimated time on this guy is 2 to 5 hours. Don't worry. You won't be here for 5 hours unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong. So let's take a look at the requirements here before we get started on anything. We want to look at what we have. We've got a 4-page app here. One page is just going to show all of our books, and it's also going to allow us to add a book. Another page will show all of our authors, allow us to add an author. And then we've got these pages which will show a single book or a single author. Now the interesting thing is that each one of these pages has a form to connect one with the other. So if I'm looking at a specific book, I can add an author to that book. Or if I'm looking at a specific author, I can add a book to that author. Whew! So how many URLs do you think we're going to have here?
Quite a few.
Okay, I'm going to have at least one. I'm going to have one for every single page that we have, so that's 4. And then I need to have one for every form that I'm going to be able to submit, right? So how many forms do we have? Yeah, we're going to have 8 altogether because we have 4 different forms here, right? Whew, man, so we got our work cut out for us. All right. Let's get started. Let's go into the terminal here and get a project going. So I'll make this bigger. Let's go into stacks, assignment, I'll go lectures. Oh, sweet. C stacks / Python / lectures. Seems like a better spot. Okay. Now we always have to activate our environment, right? Standard stuff. Source, environments, Django, bin, activate. All right. Now let's create our project. All right. So Django admin, start project. Call this books, authors, templates. Okay, and then let's open that up in VS Code so we can work with it. So code, Django, books, authors, templates. Great. All right, what's the next thing we typically want to do once we've created our Django app? Yeah, I have to do this again because now when I open a new terminal here, well, my environment's gone. So let's go source up a couple levels, environments, Django, and activate. All right. Then we're going to create the app, sort of our main app that we're working with. So we can say Python manage.py start app. We'll call that main. Very good. Now it's in there, and then the other thing that I always need to do is what? So I've created my main app, and what's the other thing that's key? I've got to add it to our settings.py, right? Okay, so down here we'll just say main. Okay, cool. So I could theoretically run this thing right now, and I shouldn't have any problems. However, right now if we look inside our urls.py, it's the admin stuff, right, that we're not currently using. Okay, so let's comment that out, and I'm going to bring in this extra function called include. And then I'm going to say add a path with basically no prefix, so it's an empty string. I want to include my main.urls. Okay. Now I have to ask myself, does this file actually exist? Not currently, right? No, you don't have to, but yeah, we can do that too. That's fine. Fair enough. All right, so since I don't have this urls.py file inside my app directory, inside my main directory, I'm going to have to create that. Now I know that I'm also going to need this path function inside that file as well. So I'll go ahead and copy that so that I can import over there. All right, bless you. So inside main, let's create urls.py. Import that. Cool. And then I'm just going to close out my my project urls.py because I don't want to get these two mixed up. It'd be very easy to do that. All right. So in here, let's just create our URL patterns variable. And this is going to be a list. And let's just create sort of an index route where we can get this app running and make sure that we can get something on screen. So let's say path. We'll invoke that against an empty string, meaning that's going to be our index route. And then I want this views.index function to handle it. Do I have views? No. Okay, so where am I going to get that? I'm going to import it up here. So I'm going to say from dot, which is our current directory, let's import our views. Okay. Now, if I look inside my views, though, I don't even have an index function. So that would potentially cause problems if I try to run it and hit that index route. I need to create it. So let's just create def index.
I have a quick question to clear it up.
Sure.
There's some projects where you do make another URLs in your app, and then there's some where you don't. Is that mainly due to what relationships you're using in ORM, like whether it's many-to-many or one-to-many?
No, that's a good question. So in the OnRamp program, they've started kind of teaching it so that we only have one urls.py.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why I did it that way for you guys this morning, because I know I wanted to be consistent with what you've been seeing. In the regular part of the platform, it sets it up so that you could potentially have multiple applications in your project.
Oh, okay. So you multiple URLs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all. All right, so if we hit this index function, what we want to do is we're just going to render out some simple template to show that we're getting something on screen. So if I say return render, and then I pass in the request and I say index.html, now I realize, whoa, I haven't made this yet, right? I haven't yet made this index.html. So we need a templates folder. And then inside there, let's put our index.html. Okay, put in some HTML, and then let's just put here books and authors. Okay. Anything else we need to do here before we get this thing running? Yeah, we haven't done anything with our models yet. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the server and see, hey, we're getting something on the page. And then we'll kind of come back to the models. All right, so let's say Python manage.py run server. Okay, let's go here, load it up. Books and authors. Okay, so that part's all good. Now that I have a working application, let's turn it off and kind of go back to our models, right? Because that's where all the good stuff is going to happen. So just come down here, close it out. I'm going to close some of these files for now so that we can just focus on our models. All right, now let's look at the wireframe a little bit to see what we're dealing with. So right off the bat, I can see that we've got these two things. We've got book class, and we're going to have an author class, right? So for the book class, I've got a title and a description. So let's start there. Start with the book class, right?
What's the item? Is this going to be
We'll talk about it in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important that we sort of think about that. But for now, I just want to create my book class.
Okay.
All right. So we'll say class book. And then, of course, that's going to inherit from models.model. Okay. And we've got this title field, which is going to be a models.char field. we want to set some kind of a maximum length, we can do that. Okay, and then we also need a description, right? So that should be pretty much it. Description, and then this I'm just going to make a models.text field.
Now, text fields are, there's no work in, right?
Correct. Yeah, there's no real limit to that, so it could be as long as you want. And then we also want to have some timestamps. That's pretty standard for us. Created at and updated at. Nice. So that looks pretty good, right? Come down here. All right, so now Jessica brings up an important point. Let's think about what is going to be the relationship between these two things. All right? So lo and behold, it actually tells us right here. We're practicing many-to-many relationships. Now it won't, when you get to the test, obviously it's not going to tell you that. But one thing that we can notice down here is that when we're on a single book's page, notice how that book has a couple authors. And then by the same token, if I get over here to this author, I have potentially more than one book, even though there's only one currently in Java, right? Okay, so that tells us we've got a many-to-many situation. A book can have many authors, an author can have many books. All right, it's getting complicated, right? Whew. All right, cool. So let's come down here and let's work on the author class. So class author, which again is going to extend from the same thing. And what do we need for that author? We need a first name, a last name, and notes. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Bless you. First name, models.char field. Okay. Let's spell that. All right, and then I'm just going to duplicate this down. We'll call this last name, notes. Looks like notes can be kind of any length. It's going to be one of those text area situations. So let's say models.text field, right? Okay. Then we've got our timestamps we'll put in there. Now it's time to do the relationship. Okay. So what do you guys think I'm going to do? I'm in my author class right now. How am I going to set up this many-to-many?
Related name.
So related name is going to come into play, but what am I going to call this field? Books, right? Books, because we can have many books for one author. So let's call it books. And then that's going to be a models.many-to-many field, right? Okay, let me just close out that sidebar there. All right, so what are we going to pass into this? We're creating a new instance of a many-to-many field, right? So what do we need to pass in?
What class is this?
So we're in author right now. Book is up above.
Okay, so book.
All right, so we need to pass in book. And then, as Nick mentioned, we do want to say a related name. Okay, what do you guys think the related name should be? Authors, right? Okay. Do we need anything else? Nope, no foreign key, right? Because this is a many-to-many field. So what it's going to do is it's going to create a middle table that creates all these relationships for us. The middle table is just going to link up a book with an author. That's it. All right. So I think we're in pretty good shape on that. We don't need to do the cascade on delete because at this point, deleting a book, for instance, we wouldn't want that to delete an author, right? And vice versa. Okay. So let's see if we can make our migrations and actually migrate this guy. Make migrations. Cool. Now let's migrate. All right. Successful, so that's good. So now basically we want to start working on these different pages, and I figure let's just start on the all books page because it's the first one that's showing the wireframe. Might as well hit that one first, right? So all we need to do is we're going to have a form over here on the left, and then we're going to have our little table over on the right. So that should be pretty simple. Let's go to our index page. Index. And let's create that form. So we go form, open it up here. Our action, let's create a route here or some routing here that kind of makes sense. So this form is going to be taking care of creating a new book for us. So what route do you guys want to use? What's that? New book? Okay. How about add book? Is that cool? No problem. All right. So let's do add underscore book. And then I always want to add a method of post on this. Okay. I'm creating a form here, so the form needs to have what inside of it? That token. Right. Okay. And then let's create a couple inputs. So we'll have title. Another one. I think so the description was going to be a text area, but I'll change that in a second. Okay. So let's just change this to a text area. Okay, name of this is going to be description. I don't really need this ID here because we're not using JavaScript to target it or CSS to style it in some way, so we can forget about that. Yes?
I never use the label for inside my HTML file. What does it do, the label?
Oh, the label.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what that's saying is that this is some kind of a label for an input. And then it can come in handy in some cases. Like for instance, if I say for equals description, if I give this text area an ID of description, what clicking on the label will do is it will actually put my cursor inside of the text area. So it kind of helps create some more usability for your application. Not critical, but you can do that. All right. So there we go. We've got our text area, and then down here we can have a button to submit. Let me see if it was. They said add inside there, so we'll stay true to that. Okay, now let's just go back here real quick. I forgot to start running my server again, right? Let's go back and run that server. Beautiful. There it is. It's just lovely. All right, cool. Now I also want to have a div over on the right-hand side of the page that's going to have all of my books, right? So let's create that. So after this form, let's come down here. Let's create another. Actually, I'll just create the table straight up. So my table is going to have, I think, 2 columns here. Or 3 columns. We're going to have an ID column, a title column, and then an action column. So I'll say table,thead, th times 3, up a couple levels, tbody, tr, td times 3. Okay. All right, so title. I'm sorry. Oops. That was ID, right? It was IT. Darn it. Ah, now I lost my tabbing. Crap. Alright. So now we've got our action column over here. Alright. And then, so I want to loop through all my books. How do I do that? It's going to be our old for loop, right? Cool, and I have a snippet built out for me that will do that for each Python that I created. Okay, so I'm going to do something like for book in books. All right. Now we can move this row up inside here like that. Cool. And then for each one, I want to display the ID, right? That was the first thing. So I'm going to use my double mustache tags. Book.id, book.title. Okay. And then finally, we have this little view link, right? So we're going to make that one of those A tags. It'll be a link. Okay, so we'll say inside this TD, let's just create this A. And then we're going to go to books / whatever the ID of this particular book is, right? So I'm going to use my double mustache tags again and say book.id. And then I think they have view inside the A tag as well. All right, so that's good. However, does my template yet have access to all my books? No. So how am I going to get the template access to that? Context, right? All right, so let's go back to our views.py. And let's create this context variable. It's going to be a dictionary. And then I'm going to say books are going to be equal to what? Book.objects.all, right? Do I have this book class currently? Not yet imported, right?
Oh,
So I
not
need to make
imported,
sure
yes.
to actually import it. So let's come up here. We'll say from models import book. Okay, so that's good. So let's try to refresh the page real quick and make sure that we didn't do any bad things. Okay, so we're all good. We just got our headers for the table, but there's nothing in there because we haven't added any books, right? So now probably the next thing that makes sense is, since we've got this form, let's go ahead and process this form submission, right? So that we can actually populate our table with some books. All right. So let's create a function for that. I'm going to call it, I'm going to get real creative and call it add book. Yeah. All right. What are we going to do inside the add book function?
We're gonna create
By calling what? Okay. Cool. And since I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to keep typing this stuff out, I'm going to say form is just going to be equal to request.post. Okay, now I can say title equals form title. Okay, and then the other thing that we got was our description. So we'll say description equals form, and then in brackets description. Okay, cool. Now once I do that, what am I going to want to do? Let's check the wireframe, see if it tells us where we need to go. So, did they state that? Add a template. Yeah, it doesn't really specifically say if we want to go, like if we want to come from here to here. So I'm not really sure. Maybe we'll just reload this page, right? So you can see, this this book has been created. All right. So that works. Let's go back here and let's return a redirect. Redirect. Okay. I've got a squiggly here. What does that mean? Need to import that, right? So we'll import that here up with render. All right. So we're in pretty good shape. Let's try to create a book. Oh, you know what? There's one thing we forgot to do, right?
Oh, you need to know.
The actual URL. Yeah, you guys are right. So here inside of our URLs.py, let's add this. We'll say path is going to be add book, And then the function that's going to handle that will be views.addBook. Whoa. Ended up outside there. Alright, good. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and try to create a book. So, what's your favorite book, Jessica?
I don't know.
That's exciting.
I know. I can't.
Does anyone have a favorite book?
I do.
Okay.
I like the My Rich Dad and Poor Dad.
Oh, okay. A little Robert Kiyosaki going on here. All right. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah.
Description. How to think about money. All right, cool. Let's add that.
I think you forgot to do your contacts.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So presumably we created this book correctly, but there was a small omission here. So back here in our views, we're still rendering the index.html, but we never passed the context in, right? All right. Yeah. So you probably saw my face when the page reloaded. Like, what? Great. Rich Dad's in the house. Cool. What other books do we want to create?
Okay, I got it now. I remembered.
She's got it.
For all the. Oh no, I just forgot it. I just forgot the title. For all the Shaw's Men, I believe, by Kenza.
Sounds familiar. For all the Shaw's men. All the Shaw. Is it like that?
Yes.
Shaw's men, right? Okay. And we'll say, what's it about?
Coup d'etat. Night.
The
Coup d'etat,
Yeah.
right? Something like that. Coup d'etat.
coup in Iran?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Jeez.
Well, I mean, the Shah, right?
Oh man, what the heck is going on? My
Oh.
my table has lost its tableness. All right, let's see what happened. So, what did I do wrong? Sometimes you may have to view your page source just to see like why something was not right. So let's come down here real quick. So table row has some table data in it. That table row ended. This one started. Did I forget to close something here? Oh my gosh. Jesus, that's so terrible. Yeah, I blew it when I was trying to do that shortcut. Alright. Alright. Much better. Cool. So this page is completely done. We're one out of 4 completed, right? So we can move on to this next one here, the all authors page. Alright, fair enough. Let's go create that. So inside our templates, I'll call this authors.html. Alright. Now, same thing. We're going to have a form first, and then, this table over on the right side. So let's do our form here. Okay. What do we want our action to be? Because this time we're adding an author. So let's make it add author, right? Okay. Method. Alrighty then. Cool. And then we've got some inputs here. We want first name, last name, notes. Okay, so let's create. Actually, before we do that, let's put that token in just so we don't forget, right? Super easy to forget this. Alright.
Does that token always have to be in the form?
Does.
Okay.
Every single form you do, yeah, exactly. So input group. Let's do first name, input group, last name. All right, and then finally we've got this text area, right? This will be notes. Okay, text area, Call this notes. And then let's get a little button in there. It says add. Cool. Add. All right. Now let's actually link this up in our views.py so that we can see this page, right? So let's just create an authors page, def authors request. All I'm going to do here for now is I'm just going to return render. I'm going to say authors.html. Then we're also going to want some context inside here, right? So what am I going to put inside context, do you think? Anybody? This is the authors page, so what do I need access to? I need to get all of my authors, right? So let's go get them. So let's create a key called authors. Let's set that equal to author.objects.all, right? Now I get my little red squiggly here telling me you did not import author. So let's import it. Okay, good deal. And then let's pass that along here. So context. Okay. Now the other thing that we need to do is we have to use this function in our urls.py, right? So I think I have that open somewhere over here. Okay, so let's add another path. This time it's just going to be authors, and this is going to be views.authors. Okay, so let's see if we can get there. Let me close this guy here. Good. Authors. Okay, cool. So I've got this form for adding an author, so that's nice. Now let's go ahead and create a table that will house all the authors. Okay, and that way once we add some, we'll expect them to show up in that table. So here in our authors, let's go create the table down here. Hopefully I can do it right this time. TR, which has some T heads in it, times 3, up 2 levels, T body, TR, TD times 3. Is it inside? Yes, it is. The T body is inside my table. I'm very happy about that. Right? Okay, so what are we showing here? Let me check. So we're doing ID, name, and action. That's what we got. ID, name, action. Okay? And then when I come down here, again, I'm going to want to loop through all of my authors, right? So let's create that loop. We'll say for each Python. It's going to do that. So now I'm going to say for author in what? Authors. Because that's what we're passing in the context. Authors. Okay. Then I'm going to bring this, this table row up inside here. Indent it nicely so it all kind of makes sense. And then in the first column, I'm just going to do the author's ID, so my double mustache tags. Second one, I want both first name and last name, right? So I'm going to do author.firstname. And then we'll have another set over here for the last name. Okay? And then finally, here in the third column, again, we're going to have one of those anchor tags. And then the href will be /authors and then / the ID. So I want to use the mustache tags again to output the author's ID. And then we can just put inside here view. All right. So if I re-render this page, I'm expecting to see nothing here because we don't have any authors in our database yet. Cool. So now the next logical thing is let's actually handle processing of this form, right? All right. So let's do that. So we've got an add author. At least that's what this is going to right now. It's going to the add author route. Let's go create that function inside views.py. Def add author, takes in the request. And what am I going to do here? Probably going to save a reference to my form so I don't have to keep retyping request.post. This is optional. You guys don't have to do it this way. Request.post. Okay. Now let's go ahead and create the author, right? So we'll say author.objects.create. Okay. And then inside there, let's say first name equals form first name. Last name form last name. Okay, then I've got notes as well. Notes. All right, so we've created the author. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to reroute right back to the author's page so that we can see that it's now in the table, right? So let's say return redirect to /authors. Okay, now let's link this up in our urls.py because we've got the function the way that we want it. So let's do path add author, and then I'm going to do views.add author. Jesus, what the heck? VS Code just like took over. All right, so we should be able to actually submit this form and have it work for us, right? It's going to hit this urls.py and invoke that add author function. All right, let's try it out. Favorite authors. Daniel, you got a favorite author? Really? Okay.
Dan Brown.
Dan Brown. Okay. Dan Brown. Do we have any notes on Dan? He's the what? Didn't she code, you said? Oh, Da Vinci Code. Got it. Okay. So we'll probably add that book later on, then we can link him up. That would be cool. All right, so I'll just say a swell guy. All right. Cool. So Dan Brown's in there. Anybody else we want to add? Tom Clancy. All right. Yeah. Another swell guy. Very good. So that's cool. That's enough for now. We can add some more later on if we want. But so we really have 2 pages complete, right? I mean, we're already like half of the way there. So fortunately, it's not going to take us 5 hours. All right. So, all right. Well, probably the second, if you were to go through it again, it would be way faster, I'm sure, right? Yeah. So let's keep moving here. The next page that we need to do is going to be this one where we're showing all the details about one specific book, right? Okay. So let's create a template for that. Up here, I'll call this single book, or we could say book details. Doesn't really matter. All right. Then inside that, let's create some HTML. So what do we want here? We want to have some different things. We want to have the title, the ID, and then the description. So let's kind of start with that. So the title, I'll put in an H1 tag. Assuming that I've passed the book to the template, how do I output it now? The actual title. So here we just want the title, though, not the ID yet. So let's just say book.title right here, right? And then we'll have the ID underneath that. So we'll say ID, and then I'm just going to output book.id. Cool. And then underneath that, it looks like we've got this description too. Seems like it's in bold for some reason. I guess we could do that. Okay, so if I wanted that to be in bold, I could just do a B tag there if I want. And then let's do book.description. Okay, good. Now if we keep going down below, here we've got something where it says authors, and then we've got kind of this list, right? So it looks like an unordered list of some sort. So we'll come down here, we'll say, I'll just say this is like an H3 tag or something like that, authors. And then I'm going to create a little unordered list. Now inside this list, I'm probably going to want to loop through all the authors that have been connected to the book. Does that make sense to you guys? So let's do another one of these little loops. And I'm going to say for author in, what do you guys think I'm getting this from? Yeah, it is going to come from the related name. So assuming that my template right now has access to this variable called book, how can I get all the authors that are connected to that book? Book.authors and then .all, right? We want all the authors that are connected to the book.
Oh, okay, one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got that, and then for each one of those, I'm just going to do a little li element, and then I'm going to put the first name and last name in there, right? So we'll do author.firstname space author.lastname. Okay, so there's that. Now, right now, none of our books actually do have any authors connected to them, so we'll expect, to not see anything there for now. But let's see if we can actually get a book on screen. So I'm also going to need to do something here in my views.py, right? So let's create a function called single book. Probably need a def keyword, right? Plus, all right. So in the single book function, how am I going to get a specific book? I'm going to need an ID, right? And if you notice, I don't yet have access to one in this function, so I better add that as an argument, right? Or as a parameter. So let's just say book underscore ID. And what I want to do is I want to create the context for this because this page is going to display all this book information for us. So let's say context. And so the key that I want to use is just going to be book because that's what I was using inside the template, right? And what am I going to set that equal to?
Book dot dot get.
So not all. We only want to get this specific one that has that book ID, right?
ID.
So then we'll say ID equals book underscore ID, right? Okay. Now I'm going to want to render that template that we were just working on, which is now called single book. So let's say return render, pass in the request, and then we'll call it single book.html. And then we need to pass in this context as well, right? Okay, so we're almost there. We've got the book details. Oh no, I used the wrong name. It's bookdetails.html, right? Be careful with these naming things because you might throw yourself off. Yeah. So now we've got the template. Now we've got the function inside our views.py to actually render the template. The only thing I need to do is hook it up inside my urls.py, right? Now let's glue this to this. So let's go into our urls.py, and I'm going to create this new path, which is going to be books / what? What am I going to use inside here? So I want the ID. You guys remember how we do this where it's like a placeholder? Because I don't know what the ID is going to be ahead of time, but I know that it's going to be some kind of an integer, right?
What was it?
So we're going to use an angle bracket, right?
And
And then we're going to say int. Yeah, and then we'll just say colon whatever we want that variable to be called. So I want it to be called book underscore ID. All right, cool. Let's go like that, and then we're going to say views.singleBook. Yeah, man, wouldn't that? It isn't the first time it's been requested. All right, so let's go back to our books page. Books. Oops, actually no, I'm sorry. It was the index page where we're showing all the books, right? And now let's just click on one of these links and see if we can actually get the book data showing. No? No such table, main author's books. What? Is my related name wrong or something? This is where things start to unravel. All right. So let's open up our database real quick and take a quick look. So I've got main author, main book. Wasn't it supposed to create a middle table for me that was linking those two things together? Why didn't it? All right, so let's go back here real quick. I'm just gonna rip this out for a second because I want to make sure that we can see the other things. Okay. Okay, so that looks good, right? We're getting the basic information about the book, but yet, why did it not create the relationship for us? The middle table.
When I put that in, and then it book threw me an error. So I don't
Yeah, I think that I was supposed to be many to many, not many to many field. Shoot, I think that's what it was. Let me double check. Oh, it is many to many field? Many to many field. Model field reference. Oh, that is right. What's that? Yeah. Related name. Okay. Self. Okay. What was the error you got thrown, Nick, when you used many to many
It
field?
says Django.db model says no attribute many to many field.
Yeah, I mean, it's working.
And you've got the exact same code that I have?
Yeah, sync code is the author of books, models that lead to many field books related name authors.
Yeah, but in the morning, the wall assignment for me doesn't have many to many table. I deleted the migration and the database and migrate again the second time it works. But at the first
But the wall doesn't have a many to many, right?
I don't.
Isn't it just a one to many? You have one user who can
Yeah,
have
one
many
to
messages.
but I
Yeah.
don't have the one to many table as well.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like when you've got a one to many relationship, there's not actually a middle table in between them.
I didn't have the column for the.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. So let me just check something here. So if I say Python manage.py make migrations. Whoa. Did I migrate before that field was added?
I think so. That's the only.
That's what it was.
That's what it was?
Yeah. Man. All right. Well, at least it was something simple. So let's migrate it over.
So wait a minute.
Cool.
That happened because you migrated before.
I migrated before adding line 17.
I don't think so. You can see the video again.
What?
You don't think so? You don't think that is
I
it?
really do think it is, but I didn't want.
Well,
to
no.
I thought it's so
If
simple.
that wasn't the case, then
So it
why
wouldn't
did
have
it
done
why
it.
did it make
It
migrations
would've said
now?
no
It would have said no
changes.
changes detected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it had to be. All right. So let's run it again. Wow.
What was it? Sorry.
So
Migrate.
apparently I made migrations and I migrated before I added line 17, which is creating that middle table for us. All right, so let's go back into that book details page and let's paste this back in. Okay. What the heck? Oh, good. Okay, so now it's working. I don't have any authors yet because none have been associated with it, right? So we need to create this form which would connect this specific book to one author, right? So let's create that down there. So in book details, underneath that we're going to have another form. Okay, and then this form, let's make the action add author to book. Okay, and then I'm going to pass in a book ID. All right, where am I going to get that from? So it's already available in my context, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's already there. So I can just do the double mustache tags to output it. Let's change the method to post. Okay. And now inside that form, I always need this token, so I'm going to add that as well. And then we're going to have basically a drop-down list of authors. Does anybody know what HTML element will make me a drop-down? So it's gonna be select, right? Okay, cool. So we'll have a select element here. Oops. Select. Okay, and then the name of this, we're gonna call this author ID. Does anybody know why? Stefan knows why. Why?
That's what other
Oh, because that's what you did. He's like, well, that's just the right thing to do.
To get the author in that inside the option drag down something.
From the drop down, yeah. So basically what we're doing is we're selecting an author ID. Even though the user is seeing the name of the author, it's the ID that's most important for us. Because we could potentially have two authors with the same name. Now, it's not going to happen with us, but I'm just saying the one thing that you can rely on to be unique in your database is going to be that ID, right? Every single record will have a unique ID. So let's use that. And then inside this select dropdown, we want to have some options, right? Each value is just going to be an author ID, but wait a minute, am I looping yet? No. All right, so let's create a little loop. All right, and we're going to say something like for author in authors. Okay, and I'll just bring this option up in here. Okay, so the value for this is going to be the author ID. That's the thing that I care about, right? And then inside here, I just want the author's first and last name. So author.first name. And then I also want author.last name. Okay, very good. And then I'm just going to have a little button saying add inside here. So button add. Okay. Now, before this is going to work, I actually need to pass all the authors to the template, right? Because the template doesn't yet know about my authors. So when I'm rendering this, what else do I want to pass along? Not only this specific book, I also want to know about all my authors, right?
So author.
Let's
Oh,
pass in
authors.
all the authors, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
author.objects.all. Cool. All right, now let's refresh this page. Let's see what we're getting here. Okay, so I've got my authors here in a little list. I got Dan Brown and Tom Clancy. I don't have Robert Kiyosaki though. Maybe I should add him as an author, right? That would be important. Authors, Robert Kiyosaki, the man. All right, there he is. All right, let's go back to our books. Okay, so now that we're at Rich Dad Poor Dad, we're probably going to want to add Robert Kiyosaki, right? But we don't yet have a URL set up to actually take this. So let's create that too. It's a whole lot of stuff just to create a few pages, right? So we'll create another function here, and we'll call this add author to book. Okay? That's going to take in the request, and what's the other thing that I need to take in?
ID.
The ID of what though? Is it the author or the book?
What are we adding?
It's going to be the book. It's going to be the book ID. Whoops. Ugh. Okay, there we go. All right, now what I want to do is I want to get a reference to this book first thing, right? Because that's the only way I'm going to be able to add authors to it is if I get the book first. So we'll say, I'll just call it this book for fun. Book.objects.get ID equals what? Book ID. All right. Now, I'm going to get an author ID through the form as well, right? So how can I get that specific author? So it's going to be author.objects.get. I'm going to say ID equals, where am I getting the ID for the author?
The form.
From the form, right? So it would be request.post, and then inside there we're going to say author_ID. So if you guys are wondering where that's coming from, you can see here I've named my select author_ID. So that's where we're getting that from, right? That's why we could say request.post and then in brackets author ID. Anybody want to grab that door? Stuff? Thank you. All right, cool. So that's where that's coming from. So now that I've got my book and my author, how can I connect them?
The relationship.
Yeah, but
Oh.
specifically, what is the syntax for us to add an author to this book?
I did put authors that
You did authors. Okay.
and
Ye-
then bracket and then the author
That you're adding,
yeah,
right?
I added
Okay.
the
Okay.
post
Good.
post.
Okay. Cool. So this works. So let's say this_book, and we're going to say .authors because that gives us a reference to the book's authors, and then we're going to say .add. Okay. What this means is I want to add another author to the current authors of the book. So what I'm going to pass into that is this author that I just got back from the database. All right. Okay. And that's pretty much it. That's all it takes for us to associate these two things together. And I could have done it from the other side too. I could have done it by getting the author and adding to that author's set of books that specific book. I could have done the same thing, right?
Question.
Mhm.
Where did that author ID come from? You said it came from the form.
Yeah. So if we look back here, see I have this little select element called author_ID.
Why did we put that there? Why did we put author ID there? For
Because I'm going to want to know what do the user select as the author to add to this book.
oh, that's right. That's
Right.
when you said for them, they see the name.
Yeah, they
For-
see a friendly looking name, but really the
What we're
value
calling-
of that
okay.
input is the author ID.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's good. So once we've done that, probably what we want to do is we want to redirect them back to the book that they were already looking at, right? So let's return a redirect. And then I'm going to go back to books. And then I want the ID to be part of that as well. So I can just say book underscore ID. See, so this is what's coming in through the function, right?
What happens if we don't put book underscore ID? If we just leave it at
Well, yeah, I mean, we could go back to the main books page. That would be fine. But the main books page won't really show me which authors are connected to a specific book.
okay.
Which means that if the user has just taken this action, has tried to connect two things, and then we take that user back to the all books page, user doesn't really know what just happened, right?
Okay.
Maybe it got added, maybe it didn't, I don't know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, this way we'll take them back and they can see it. Oh yes,
Added.
now it's part of that authors list, right? Okay, cool. So now the other thing that we need to do is we got to connect this in the urls.py, right? And I think what I called it was add author to book, right? And then slash the ID of the book. We'll find out. And okay, and then again it's going to be book underscore ID, angle brackets, and then we're going to say views dot, did I call it the same thing? Add author to book, yes. Add author to book. A little autocomplete help, nice. I like that. All right, so let's try to add Kiyosaki here to this book. Oh, jeez. It didn't. It seems like it didn't like. Yeah, it didn't like my redirecting, I think is what it was. Because what it is that the type of book ID right now is an integer. I just tried to concatenate an integer to a string. Python doesn't like that very much. So I could fix that by doing an f string, which means that I can just put these curly braces inside here and say book ID like that. Okay, now let's go back to that specific book. Books/1, and there we go. Now Robert has been connected to this specific book, right? Okay. If I want to add another one, like Dan Brown, even though he's not the author of this book, but let's just add him anyway. There we go. Okay. So now we're done with 3 out of the 4 pages. We just have the last one, which is basically going to be this same thing, only the other way around. All right. This time we're going to be looking at an author, and we're going to be able to add books to that author. All right. So maybe I'll be lazy and I'll copy some HTML.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I will. All right. So let me just get rid of that real quick. So we had this book details page. Let's just copy this and let's make an author details page, right? Author details.html. Inside here, let's make some changes here. So instead of the book title and all that stuff, we're going to have the author's name up here, the ID, and then the notes. Okay. Okay, so this would be author, first name, author dot last name. Okay. Author.id. In fact, maybe what I'll do is I'll just do some replacements here. Author. Yeah. Okay, instead of description, an author has notes, right? So I'll just do notes on this. Notes. Okay, and then instead of authors, now we have books. Okay, so now we're going to say for book, in author.books.all. I'm not sure if I really saved a lot of time by doing that. Did I? Maybe. All right, so what we want to display inside here is just going to be the book.title, right? All right, then end that for, and then down here we're going to have another form, but this time it's going to be add book to author. Okay, and then I'm taking in the author ID, so that's good enough. Instead of author ID, what am I going to be selecting now? A book ID. Book ID. And then the option is just going to be the author ID, so that's good. This should actually be book ID, right? And now instead of looping through authors, we're now looping through books. So when I hit this page, what I'm going to want to do is pass in all of the books in my database so that I have access to them, right? So instead of first name and last name, let's just change this out real quick. Let's say book.title. Okay, so that's pretty good. The other thing that we need to do is we need to add something inside of our views to actually handle this, right? So inside our author details, where the heck was that? Oh, we haven't even created that page yet, right?
No.
Author details. All right, let's make it real quick. So author details, def. Take in the request. What else do I need to take in here? It's going to be the author ID now. Okay. And then, so to get this specific author, what do I need to do? So I'm going to create this little context. So we'll say author is going to be author.objects.all. Oh, I'm sorry, not all, .get. What am I saying? ID equals author ID. Okay. And then all we're going to do is we're just going to render out a page, right? So I'm going to say return render request. And then I'm going to say author details HTML. And then the third thing we want to pass is this context as well, right? What else do I want this page to have access to? It's one other thing, right? So I've got this specific author, that's good. What else do I need though? I need all the books. Yeah, exactly. So let's go down here and add that. Books. It's going to be book.objects.all, right? Okay. So that function's all ready to go. Now I just need to glue it together in my urls.py. So here, let's create a path that looks like this. It's just going to be authors and then slash int author ID. Okay. And then I think we called it author details. So I'll say views.author details. All right, let's see if we can get this working. So if I'm here on my authors page, let's see if we can view Tom Clancy. What? What's going on there?
Oh.
It's a ghost.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we're displaying Tom Clancy, so that's cool. He's another swell guy, right? We've got his list of books. He's not yet connected with any, so that's fine. What if I go to 1? Hey, look. Dan Brown is connected to a book, so we see that in his list of books. So that was good. Interesting, right? Because we added it from the other side. We added it from the book side, so you could do it from either way. All right. So now the only thing that we need to do, we're almost finished here. The only thing we need to do is handle this form submission right here, right? Okay. So let's finish that up, and then we'll be done. Okay, so inside my views.py, I'm going to create one more function, and this one is going to be called def add book to author. Okay. I need to take in the author ID so I can find out, you know, what author am I adding a book to. Can anyone tell me where that author ID is going to be coming from?
No.
No, not the form. It's going to come from the URL. Very good. Perfect. All right. So now so assuming that we have it, let's say author, or I'll just say this author to be a little bit more clear, equals author.objects.get, and we'll say ID equals author ID. Okay. And then how do I know which book I'm trying to add? So let's say I'm going to go get it. I'm going to say book.objects.get. So how do I know which book I'm trying to get here? ID equals what?
Book underscore ID.
Well, I don't have access to a variable called book underscore ID, right?
Oh.
Where's it going to come from?
I don't know.
Anybody? AJ?
The title? I really don't know.
It's not coming from the title.
The author ID.
Third data,
No.
It's not author ID?
No, so I'm just asking here, how do I know what the book ID is? Where am I going to get that data?
From my model.
There.
From where?
From there? Is it?
Other ID.
From there! It's just there, man. It's coming from the form. Remember?
The request that was.
They're gonna tell us what book ID we need to look out for because they're selecting a specific option in the select dropdown.
I'm confused as to when we know when something's coming from the form. Like for the author ID, how did you know, AJ, that was coming from URL?
That's great. So yeah, I mean, what we did down here in the form is that we said the action was going to be add book to author, and then I had slash the author's ID. So that's how you kind of could have known that it was coming from the URL. But a lot of this stuff happened kind of fast, so it might have just flown right past you. But that's how we know because our route is going to include that author ID as part of it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So let's keep going here. The other thing that we need to do is, as I said, we're saying that it's coming from the form, the book ID, right? Book underscore ID. Okay. Now what's the next thing I need to do? Now I have a reference to the author and I have a reference to the book. So how do I connect them? Same way I connected the other one, right? So I can say this underscore author dot books dot add. I have this add method which will add another book to the author's books, set of books. And what do I want to pass in here? Am I passing in the author or the book? No, I'm not gonna pass. I'm not gonna pass the author back to its set of books. Yeah, I'm gonna pass the book, right? Okay. Good. And then after I'm done with this, what do I want to do? Probably. Let's go back to that author's page so that we can show, yeah, this author is now associated with this book. All right. So return redirect. We'll go /authors. I'm going to use an f string again so that I don't run into that int problem. So we'll say author ID, right? Okay, very good. I need to add this in my URLs as well. Here we are. Path, add, yeah, last one, add book to author. Okay, and then also I'm going to have that author ID that I need. ID and then we're gonna go add book to author, right? All right, let's try it out. So Dan Brown is already connected to Rich Dad Poor Dad. Let's try to connect Dan to For All the Shaw's Men. And there we go. Okay. So if we wanted to create, say, another author, I don't know, let's say Fyodor Dostoevsky. Am I spelling it right? That's
Yes.
right, right?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. There he is, and we can go to Dostoevsky's page and add, let's say he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Sweet. We just rewrote history right there.
Yeah.
And he also wrote For All the Shaw's Men. Man, he's very prolific.
Mhm.
All right. So that's it. So that's books and authors. You guys ready for a vacation?
Yes.
Man, that was a long one.
I'll take the exam. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.